major battle of the First World War was at Passchendaele. It was very sad what happened at Passchendaele, and something that always sticks in my mind is it got called the greatest martyrdom of the war. Now, you've heard plenty about martyrs in the different modules that we've done, so people who were dying for the cause or for something they believed in, or in this case really dying for the country. The reason why Passchendaele was so upsetting was really the weather had meant that these poor men were ultimately being completely sacrificed. There was no way they were able to go over the top and even run at the enemy because the mud was just sucking them down into the ground, and a lot of them actually died from drowning in the mud rather than being shot at. So it's also known as the Third Battle of Ypres, and the 100th year anniversary of it was celebrated obviously in 2017. So there's quite a lot on television about that, documentaries about what happened here. Now, the only success really at Passchendaele was that a mine killed 10,000 Germans in one go. That was the only thing that was really a success that took place at that time during this battle. And like normal, we started with an artillery bombardment which began on the 18th of July 1917. That was always the tactic. Bomb them with artillery and then get everyone together and start running over the top. That was always the plan. Now, Passchendaele was a village here in Belgium. Okay, so this one was happening in Belgium. And they were determined not to lose this village, Passchendaele. It was just near the village where all the fields were, where they were obviously doing the fighting. And on the 31st of July, the soldiers were ordered to go over the top. Now, unfortunately, as we know before from General Haig, didn't always make the right decisions. And a lot of people felt that, you know, it was lions led by donkeys. So all these brave young men obviously were dying while the generals told them to go over the top, you know, whatever the weather or whatever the situation was. So it was the wettest summer for 30 years. So you would have hoped when they realised that and it was trench warfare that they think it's too muddy, it's too wet, there's absolutely no point us even trying. But that wasn't the case. This planned offensive apparently was going to be the major breakthrough. Haig had said that at the Battle of the Somme, and now he's saying it again in 1917. He was convinced that the Germans were at breaking point. If they could manage to win the Battle of Passchendaele, then everything would, you know, be coming to a close and the First World War would nearly be over. Unfortunately, he couldn't have been more wrong, because these poor men were drowning in the mud. They had no chance of being able to get to the enemy trenches to try and take over their trenches. And also, all of our technology, these new tanks we've been trying out and things like that, all of these things started to be pulled down in the mud. So they weren't as successful as obviously had been hoped. And also the poor horses who were pulling the artillery guns to different places, they were sinking in and drowning in the mud as well. So really something should have been thought about in terms of the weather there, because they should have regrouped and thought, well, maybe we should wait a bit longer till it dries up, maybe we should try something different, but ultimately they didn't. So 250,000 allies died, so that's the people who were on our side. And even more of the Germans died at Passchendaele. It really was martyrdom for all of the sides in the war. It was a waste of life really, because it actually didn't really achieve very much at all. And because it was obviously all low land where Passchendaele was in Flanders, it just became swampland, it just became flooded really, really easily. And one year on the exam, the question was about mud was the biggest enemy in the First World War. Well, certainly you would talk about Passchendaele, because in this battle it really did appear that it was the worst enemy, because they couldn't even fight properly. It was impossible to do that. And after Passchendaele we took a few kilometres. So all those people had died and we'd hardly made any progress whatsoever.